the same 1 and 1 equals 2 that you and I learned since we were children. There's the only thing new here is that somebody hit a magic seam, but all of the components necessary to make it available. Yeah. Teaching your cousins, using technology, and the response is, people want this, and having the foresight to record them. With all the technology you and I have around this table right now, there's nothing new. And this has become a multi-billion, it will be a multi-billion. This guy is going to be one of the next billionaires you'll see advertising him. Just like Zenstrom, who invented Skype, who is worth what? 6 billion, 5 billion?
They just bought it for 8.7 billion.
Microsoft, yeah. Let me change the topic a bit.
Sure.
So, and this, you were Deputy Minister of Education at a very interesting time.
Yeah.
The famous University Rationalization Committee.
Yeah.
Did you succeed in rationalizing us?
Oh, I think that what we succeeded in doing is to revisit the whole system, and to say to ourselves, look, I mean, there are certain principles that we have to follow. I mean, and there are certain things that we have to deal with. You can't have more non-teaching staff than you have students. It doesn't make any sense. You know, you really ought to have a synergy between degree work and diploma work and so on. And people shouldn't feel that they are hitting a dead end. They should be able to use what they've added on to move to the next level. You know, those kinds of things that
we still have a big problem with polytechnic graduates.
We do, because
What's the problem?
The problem is that we didn't follow we didn't follow the way that the thing had been set up. So people in the polytechnics panicked and began to feel that they should be producing people with degrees. And for me, the sad thing that has stymied that is not anything but not being able to hook on down the line and have people who determine what salaries are to understand that you can determine parallel salaries so that people don't feel that they must move, you know, into the degree. I think that the lack of synergies has caused us a lot of problems. So for me, while I'm very proud of the blueprint that is there, I'm proud of the analysis that it has been done, I'm proud of the white paper. I think that the basics are there. It's more a question of how we've implemented it and seeing it through. I mean, we have a National Council for Tertiary Education, you know, and it should be able to coordinate. You should be able to go there and know, you know, how many students we have, you know, how many staff we have, you know, all the statistics should be there. But when you go, you have a situation in which there is a divide between the universities and the polytechnics. How did that happen? You know. So I have my disappointments, but I think that work we will always have to go back to it, you know, because it's dealt with the fundamentals. Yeah.
But at the same time, when you're doing this fantastic work, and I could say this is a question for my senior colleague Aboah.
Yeah.
You allow the World Bank to kill our universities.
No, the World Bank had, you see, what we don't, and I think unless we take the things, I mean, we look at the sequencing, you know, we'll have a problem. The World Bank already had the idea that primary school, they use this whole idea of you know, how many primary school students pupils could you have for one university student, you know, that kind of value for money thing that they now, I think, abashedly, you know, agree doesn't make any sense. And so that was their attitude. It's not an attitude that was brought on by what we were doing. What we did was to make it clear to them that we couldn't do it that way. You know, so the universities were dying anyway. At that time, you had this terrible thing that the staff were not there. They had moved out. The universities, the government was committed to doing X, Y, and Z, and it couldn't do it and wasn't doing it, and you had demonstrations all the time. You know, there are all of those things.
What period is this?
Sorry?
What period is this?
The mid-1980s. You know, and you had a situation in which we didn't know how many staff-student ratios. We didn't have any of that kind of thinking.
You
like
got rid of all our supers.
Incremental budgeting, you know, which didn't make any sense. But now the people in the universities themselves are going even further than we had thought. You know, they are bringing in cleaning companies. They're doing, you know, all kinds of things. Because you have a cleaner, he comes. I mean, just 2 days ago, I saw our cleaner at 2 o'clock. He was on his bicycle. He was going home. You see. So this kind of thing. I mean, actually, I don't buy those kinds of
That's
things.
an illustration of having worked efficiently for half the day? Or?
It's an illustration. It's an illustration.
Haven't been super efficient.
Hiding off. That's what it is.
We are talking productivity, not how many hours you are there.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the way we used space, we still have a problem with that. You know, the idea of matching student numbers with space, it was, you know, that's why I'm saying that we were doing this fundamental thinking, and I don't buy the idea that the World Bank, you know,
killed
the
the
World Bank.
investors.
I don't buy it at all. I think it made us sit up and
But
start thinking.
Sammy, I mean, you are a businessman, but you were on the University Council for a very long time. So, putting on your businessman's hat and with your inside knowledge of Legon, for instance, how do you see the universities?
You know, what makes a great institution, academic institution, faculty, quality of faculty, and how much you're paying them. Because if you're not paying them well, you will lose them to the private sector. 2, the quality of students that you admit is critical, and the infrastructure you provide for all of it. What was happening at one point with the transition from the JSS, SSS program was that the quality of students that were going to universities were not university material. It made it very difficult for the faculty itself to be productive. And the infrastructure was seriously overwhelmed with the fact that I think the administration of the university was forced to admit more students at one time that they shouldn't have, or they couldn't resist. 1, because there were 2 years of strikes. There are 120,000 students sitting there who are qualified to go to university, and there was no way you're going to be saying that this social waste should continue. So all of the universities were forced to admit more than they could absorb, and they were admitting students that were of very low quality. But that transition period is gone, and increasing the universities became more private. I think we got government to, as you said, to sit up and accept the concept of cost sharing. Of course, here and there they will go and invade the politicians, and the politicians will come back and say, okay, you won't allow you to increase fees or prices or charge for things. But under the 8-year, 10-year Legon Development Plan, for instance, we're going to be at a position whereby the university could recoup all the costs to make it more viable.
So what? The fees that the students pay? The
contributions that students, parents, and government brings. And at one point, I mean, how much were we contributing per student on campus? $500 to train our students. It's so